How you doing, everybody? This is John and RJ, and this is Comic Book Team Up. And to this week's guest is Brian Bow of Wolf and Batsy fame. How you doing, Brian?
Good. How you doing?
How you doing, RJ?
I'm doing great.
Okay. Anybody hit with the storm?
I was, but we're keeping our fingers crossed that I'm keeping my power here.
You have a storm currently going on right now?
No, it went over us probably about 2 hours ago, so we're getting the last of it now.
We had the storm last night, and man, it sounded like a movie, just branches and everything falling down. It was terrible. Did you escape the storm, Brian?
Just a lot of freezing rain and wind.
Yeah, that's what I got. Yeah, and then I had the fortunate joy of working in a mud pit today at the airport. You know, before they build the buildings, they got to send the power pipes under the buildings, and that's what we're doing. So that was a lot of fun. Watching them drain it and then jump into the mud. And then I really liked the lady who sat next to me on the train ride home. She was like this because I was just covered in filth. So, which brings us to today's topic: is monsters. I look like a monster. So, for those of you who don't know, Brian has a comic called Wolf and Batsy. Tell us about Wolf and Batsy, Brian.
Here's issue 1. Wolf and Batsy is the adventures of a werewolf and a cute female vampire wandering the earth looking for a place to call home. But everywhere they go, they end up eating people and getting run out of town.
Yeah. And that causes problems sometimes.
Yeah. Along the way, they run into friendly monsters, evil monsters, friendly humans, evil humans, et cetera, and get into all kinds of horror, survival, mischief, and action adventure.
Okay. So whenever we do Comic Book Team Up, because I got RJ around, I got to pretend that I'm smarter than I am. So I kind of like to class it up a bit. So I thought we'd talk about like monsters in general. And my first question I want to ask Brian, because he's the monster expert here, is are monsters necessary? Do you have to be evil to be a monster?
No.
You could be a good monster?
Well, you could be a good monster, but I mean, that's the whole story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, right? Or the Wolfman, is that you could be a good person who gets infected with the monster disease or supernatural ailment and becomes an evil monster against your will. You could have that happen, right?
Right. But the monster
there are good misunderstood monsters, right? Frankenstein monster didn't ask to be put in his position. King Kong didn't ask to have his home invaded.
That's a good one. King Kong's a good point. I could argue Frankenstein. I could argue Dr. Jekyll, but King Kong's a good one. He's just an animal.
Yeah. What about Dr. Moreau's creatures? They didn't ask to be created or abused.
But I always looked at Dr. Moreau's creatures as no different than the island of Dr. Moreau, whatever. So why can't I think of the name of the freaking book? Lord of the Flies. They're no different than uneducated children with no sense of morals, and that's why they had to have the law. You know, what is the law? Yeah. I don't know. Because like would Ben Grimm be considered a monster?
That's a good question.
Yeah, that is.
What do you think, RJ?
No, he was considered a monster during a lot of the early comics.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hadn't really thought about that.
Yeah, because I first off, he's the ever-loved blue-eyed thing. Everybody, you know, so I don't consider him a monster, but you know, so I don't know. I'm torn. Like, I think the concept of a monster is like, I like this comment by Zach 10. A monster has to be dangerous at least, and Ben Grimm is dangerous, but he's in control,
whether intentionally or unintentionally.
Yeah, because I would say that Frankenstein was, you know, he was evil. He didn't have to kill Elizabeth. You know, he could have argued his point. He was a super genius, so like he was malicious at the very least. Maybe he had an arc. I'd like to think if there was Frankenstein 2, Electric Boogaloo, that he would be a good guy. What do you think, RJ? Do you think Frankenstein had an arc of veering towards good? The creature,
for a long time since I read Frankenstein.
Well, actually, the creature was the Frank. I'm sorry, RJ, I talked over you. I apologize.
No, I just I think the last time I read Frankenstein was probably in high school, so that was a while ago.
Because the Wolfman, I could definitely buy. What's his name? Talbot.
Larry Talbot.
Larry Talbot was the human, and then the monster was like he an uncontrolled, part of him. But I will say that Dr. Jekyll was just as evil as Mr. Hyde. My theory is that he wanted to do nasty things with women, and he created his own disguise. I that's what I think.
That's a theory, right?
He used the plausible deniability to release his inner child and do nasty things. Yeah, but you got me with King Kong, so I gotta update my King Kong. He's just an animal. So let's are natural things monsters, like a tiger or a shark.
Alligators are my favorites.
See, but I wouldn't consider an alligator a monster, because an alligator or a tiger is just hungry, and that's what it's.
I don't consider those animals monsters.
Right.
King Kong is a monster because
there's something unnatural about it. So
yeah.
But then again, we could all agree that like Jeffrey Dahmer was and he was just eating too, right?
Human monster, right? Right.
Oh wow! So I don't know. I'm kind of fascinated with this. Like, what is the definition of a monster? Now I got to look up the actual definition of a monster. But
what about John Merrick, the Elephant Man?
See, he
looked like one, doesn't he?
He looked like one, but he wasn't dangerous. Poor
Right.
guy couldn't even sleep properly.
True.
I don't know. He wasn't unnaturally strong or anything. My friend Sean, he had a tradition growing up as a kid that we would all go to the movies on his birthday parties. That's what he liked to do. And one year, the first time we did it, we saw the Black Hole, that Disney movie. Oh, great! I still love that movie. And then the second year, we saw the Elephant Man. We took a bunch of fifth graders to see the Elephant Man, and we were bored out of our mind. I always remember throwing a popcorn, and this other kid, Sean Rainey, he was livid the whole way home. He thought he was all excited. We're going to see the elephant. He thought we were going to see a monster movie. He thought it was going to be half-man elephant stamping on people and everything. It was just a philosophical debate,
That's hilarious.
Yeah. And then the year after that, we saw the Black Stallion, and then, if you remember that movie, and then the year after that, nobody went to Sean's birthday parties anymore. So, we're getting some good comments popping up. In the original tale, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde were not two separate personalities, but simply a second identity. Yes. So Alexander, I think he's backing me up that Dr. Jekyll. I remember talking with I took a science fiction literature class in college, and lo and behold, it turned out to be like Frankenstein and all the original monster books, because they were the original science fiction, I guess. And we had to read, like, Neuromancer was the newest of the books that we read. And I said to him, I think Dr. Jekyll was just a pervert who, and he started smiling. He goes, I think so too. But just because I agreed with the professor doesn't mean, he was right. Dr. Jekyll wanted to prove his theory was right, and then he wanted to just show some advice so he could indulge in them without guilt. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I got two people. I got two people in my corner.
That's a good comment. That's a good comment.
Yeah.
But see, that's the fun of it, is the debate.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The different ways you can interpret it.
No, you're wrong, and I hate you, and I shame you now. And I'm gonna cancel you. Hashtag Brian Bob is wrong.
My question for Brian is the question I had last week. Why do you think there's so many werewolf stories now?
Good question.
Now?
Yeah, there seems to be a lot, especially in indie comics.
That's a good question. Well, I mean, we had the Underworld movies, right? We had Dog Soldiers. There was a Ginger Snaps. There was like a dearth of werewolf movies about 20 years ago, or 10, 15 years ago, right? Because suddenly they could do the effects. So I think a lot of people who were kids a lot of people who were kids back then grew up and decided to do a comic book. Me, I was inspired by The Howling in 1981 and watching The Wolfman on TV on Saturday afternoons.
That would be The Howling 2 would be my movie like you just described, John. Me and my friends went to go see The Howling and we thought it was great. And then The Howling 2 came out and we're like, all right, this is going to be amazing. And it was like, wow, that was the worst letdown ever.
Yeah, The Howling 2 is pretty bad.
Oh, I never saw Howling 2. Now I got to see it because now I'm curious. Well, I had, just like I'm into comic books, my older brother's into horror movies. And it was like a ritual every year. Every Friday the 13th movie, we would go to the movie theater and see it. He would wake me up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning and we would watch horror movies. And I was like, my brother's so cool. And finally, I started to realize he was just too scared to watch these movies on his own. So he needed somebody there. So I grew up watching all the horror movies. Now, do you think that I think there's a resurgence of all these universal monsters coming back. Every time you turn around, there's vampires, there's werewolves, even Frankenstein's monsters coming back. We got a comment here that says vampires and zombies. So, geez, how could I skip zombies? But
I still love zombies.
Yeah, I love zombies too. Which
makes
the
monsters never get played out for me. I just love them all. I always have.
I think as the superhero movies are declining, I think the monster movies are coming back.
That'd be good.
Yeah, I'd rather there be good superhero movies, but let's be realistic. that ship is sailing. So I got another question for you: fast zombies or slow zombies?
Both. I love them both.
That breaks the rules. I know.
What rules?
The zombies got to be slow and pond. But I know, like in Dracula, the vampires can be out in the sunlight. So like, as that breaks the rules too. Even though, you were telling me that the werewolf and the vampire rules were only established through Hollywood movies. That's not
the Wolfman rules were largely most of the rules you think of as rules for werewolves were made up by Kurt Siodmak when he wrote The Wolfman in 1940-41. I always get those two confused. Whatever. Yeah.
It's one of the things I was talking about. One of the things I was talking about just on stream last week was the idea that throughout history, you have these accounts over and over and over again about dog-headed people. And now I just assume that they just encountered people from different regions that they never realized people could look that way. But honestly, I think that it goes so far back, the idea of a wolf man or a dog person, you can go back at least to ancient Rome and Greece and find these kind of accounts.
Yeah.
Well, I follow a lot of these like history YouTube channels, and I have a history degree, but I feel like I'm losing it all. I'm not reading as much as history stuff. And one of the things I found fascinating is in the time of the Roman Empire, there were still woolly mammoths on the earth. So I wonder, like, could monsters be like ancient cryptids or maybe misrememberings of older creatures? Like, I don't know if I'll believe that dog-headed humanoids, but maybe you ever see like when a dog stands up on its hind legs? I wonder if there was like a species of hunting wolf that maybe like stood up to scare people. I don't know.
Dire wolves.
Yeah, dire wolves. So and then the origins of the wolves was people with rabies, and then there was like a tribe in ancient Greece that actually physically wore the skins of wolves to scare people.
Berserkers. Yeah. There's a lot of theories among the criminal psychologists that study serial killers that say they wonder if stories of vampires and werewolves were things that were created to make sense of the same kind of phenomenon of serial murder back in a time when people didn't understand the psychology of it.
Yeah,
I think that's an interesting theory too.
There's this girl on YouTube now who has she has Tourette's syndrome, and she's trying to destigmatize Tourette's syndrome. But I see her doing these tics and things, and then I also remember when my mom was going through dementia, and I'm like, to me, that explains demonic possession. Can you imagine in the 13th century somebody had Tourette syndrome, saying the most horrible things. I'm a witch. Whatever. Like, I wonder like how much of monstrous witch burnings that was just a misunderstanding of
or is it the other way around? Is schizophrenia and all that kind of stuff our simplified way of explaining demonic possession? A real phenomenon that we're too smart to believe in.
Right. How many supernatural occurrences now are we just writing away as scientific phenomenon?
That's what I think. The older I get.
swamp gas. You used to. It's all swamp gas. It really was a spaceship. We're being gaslit by the powers that be. I like this comment by Zach. The comments are going by really fast, guys. I'm not ignoring any comments. They're just coming by really quick. Thanks. I like how some monsters really prey on some of our fears, zombies, and so disease and the unthinking mob. Yeah, I definitely believe that zombies are popular. Like it's a perfect metaphor for communism, if you ask me. And then other people say it's a perfect metaphor for capitalism. But I always think like this mindless mob that just follow. It could be the extremes of both ends, and it's a subconscious fear. Yeah. To me, zombies scare me the most out of all the monsters.
Zombies are the most fun to draw.
Yeah, I'm sure they are. You can't reason with them. You can't do anything. And what are you gonna do? You're gonna fight them. It's a horde. Everybody romantically thinks they could go one-on-one with a vampire or a werewolf, but nobody thinks they're gonna fight a horde of zombies.
I was always fascinated by the zombie voodoo myths and things like that. I started to look it up. I think it was probably a little after high school, but the idea, I don't know. It's probably if you ever seen that Sherlock Holmes movie with Robert Downey Jr., where the guy stops his heart and he makes it look like he's dead, right? He uses a certain kind of plant to do that. That's what the voodoo priests used to do. They would poison somebody and they would be completely immobilized and they would think that they're just, in a deep sleep, and then everyone else would think they're dead, and then they would mourn them. And after they'd be mourned and listening and watching the people they trust mourn them as they were dead, then they would think they were dead. Then they would bury the person, and the voodoo priest would come back and dig them up after they've been, without any kind of food or anything for days and days, and then give him the antidote so that he would basically. It would also include mind bending because your senses are lacking. And so you would grab onto any kind of idea that was given to you after that. So they planted the idea in their minds that they were now an undead slave to the priest, the voodoo priest. And that's how they turned them into zombies. It was a very fascinating way to actually go through the whole thing.
Yeah. You ever seen a Serpent in the Rainbow?
Yeah. You go. Took the words right out of my mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. I Walked with a Zombie was another one.
Yeah.
Great movie on that same idea.
These are, and this is something that my whole life are zombies. It's nonsense, and then you find out that there is a scientific, there is a scientific basis for this. I don't know. Fascinating. I still have never seen Serpent in the Rainbow because my girlfriend in high school went to go see that with the guy she cheated on me with. So there's two movies in my life that I will never see. Serpent in the Rainbow because I'm not stubborn, and then I already told the story of It's a Wonderful Life. The nun told me I couldn't see it because I was whistling in the hallway and making noise, and she said we were on the way to see it. She goes, "Now you can't go," and I was like, "I'm never going to see this movie." So two movies I'll never I'm not stubborn. So I like this comment over here. Demonic possession is rare, but it is a real thing. Now, I'm not going to debate whether or not it's real or not.
I agree with that.
You think it's real?
Yeah. I think it happens in degrees as well. I think there's people who are possessed that don't act like, The Exorcist, Linda Blair, where they're crazy and acting animalistic. I'm sure there's people that are under that demonic influence that act perfectly rational.
That's terrifying. I never thought of that.
Consider their actions.
You gave me the chills thinking about that.
I once heard a really interesting sermon where the pastor said demons are basically invisible people he said a demon is a person without a body that just follows you around and hectors you and lies to you all day long. I found that fascinating.
One of the scariest things I ever saw was I don't know how true it is. You know, I try to be skeptical about everything, but they were talking about like all that Pizzagate scandal, like these elite politicians having whatever children. I don't even want to talk about it, but you know what I'm talking about. But they showed artwork that one of these rescued children made, and it was a picture of themselves, but then they would draw like another version of themselves over here watching the abuse. And the psychologist is saying they split their spirit, almost like Voldemort. You know, they sent their spirit elsewhere to protect themselves. And they said, and that would leave room for demonic possession because their soul, whatever was. And I gotta say, like, oh my God, there's few things that terrify me. You know, like, you know, and that's one of them. Just I didn't know it scared me, but you know what you said just terrified me. Like, there's these spirits over here, and what are they just waiting for this poor child to protect itself by basically leaving its, oh my God, no. Oh God, demons are fallen angels. Yes, yeah. And then somebody said something about biblically accurate angels. I know that's like a meme right now, but I remember as a kid, I went to Catholic school, and I remember drawing basically mathematical patterns and drawing what I thought angels looked like. And probably another reason why the psychologist would talk to me. Listen to the Exorcist Files podcast trip. I don't want to, you know, I want to, but that kind of stuff, like serial killer documentaries, terrify me because it's real. You know, my sister watches that stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm very fascinated with true crime. I've read a lot of those books, and I think at some point horror movies just didn't scare me anymore. I'd seen so many and was just desensitized. I needed something else that would really scare me. So,
well, I meant to ask: are your stories based upon true crime, or are they mystery, or more the monster?
Oh, thanks for asking.
Talking about your comic, yeah.
Thanks for asking. A little yes to a little bit of all of that. I mean, my stories are they always start with, what am I in the mood to draw? What would be fun to draw? And then my stories are big elaborate excuses to draw cool stuff that I'm in the mood to draw. But I will take inspiration from different things I've read, whether in horror stories or seen in horror movies or crime novels, what have you.
Here's the cover to your new comic. I put it up a little too early. I thought it was going to be hidden, and I could pop it in. But this is Brian's issue.
Here, I can show you. I got it right here.
Oh, okay.
This is the proof for, if you want to make me full screen there, John. If you can. Sure. Yeah. So this is a proof copy. You can see the printer's little label right there. But I'm going to be self-publishing, starting with issue 10. I was under another publisher who did issues 1 through 9. But I'm going to be self-publishing, starting with issue 10. So I just got the proof from the printer, and we're going to be probably launching the campaign for it in February. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but the stories are sort of like, you know, it's just my weird imagination, and all these things that I'm inspired by just sort of mixed together. You know, horror movies that I've been seeing since I was a kid, monster toys that I love, horror stories I've read. I'm really into crime fiction and true crime, so ideas from that. I just pick little pieces of everything and kind of put it together and make these stories. I have a lot of books on supposedly true accounts of vampires, and I read this one thing about a kind of vampire who can remove their own eyes. So yeah. I thought I've never seen that ability in a comic book before. So I gave that power to my female vampire Batsy. So and then, you know, EC Comics, of course, horror comics. I do stuff like that. You know, that issue 3 was all about them befriending a bunch of zombies. Different horror movies are influential. This monster was sort of inspired by The Crawling Eye movie from the 1950s.
So would you be fair to say that your comics are like an homage to the Hammer horror films that we all grew up watching?
Yeah, this issue was sort of inspired by European horror films, a little more spicy,
Yeah.
but then this issue was inspired by guerrilla movies.
Yeah. That issue was as much as I love your comic, that issue was light years of my favorite. And it's nothing mean about anything else. Just the art in that is just like I said it to you, and you got all shy, but I meant it. It reminded me of Eisner. It reminded me.
Oh,
of
get out of here!
I know. And I love this comic here. Wolf and Batsy is fantastic. I love the blood clot ads.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can show you an example of what you're talking about there.
And I have to say that there was two particular, and I'm not going to say which scenes they were, but there was two particular scenes that actually scared me. As supernatural horror doesn't really scare me as much, more realistic. But there was two scenes that, oh my god, yeah, these are great.
So I make fake ads like in the old monster magazines and the old comic books. And of course, half of them are real, and half of them are things I made up. So, like, you can order an actual dead bat. This one was inspired by the movie Return of the Living Dead, which has fast zombies, by the way.
Yes.
Split dogs. Where is it?
Split dog. I remember that. Yeah.
If you remember in Return of the Living Dead, they work at a veterinarian medical supply place, and the guy goes, "Those are split dogs for veterinarian schools." Well, I thought it might be cool to have one you could actually order. Here's a fake vomit ad. Where is it? I'm getting all mixed up here with my camera. I can't get it on I can't get it on there for some reason. I'm all backwards. There it is.
Yeah, I know. I always point to the wrong things whenever I'm doing this.
Yeah, there's that weird distortion.
Vomit, X-ray specs,
Yeah, X-ray specs, monster hands, exploding cigars.
Yeah.
Actual human eyeballs for optometry students. So Captain Bloodclot is the ads in the back that try to give it that old horror comic feel.
So you're going to put up your own campaign then, right? You're self-publishing. You're going to be self-delivering. You're going to be. It's all. What's the name of your new company?
Bloody Weirdo Comics.
Yeah, I love your logo. Show your logo. I love this. Tell a story about your logo.
Got my comics all mixed up here. So this is, again, I got to get it framed right.
I know it's
where is it? Oh, come on, where is it? There it is. So this is you can barely see it on here. Actually, you know what? It's on the inside. I forgot. There it is. So I took a drawing of the Wolfman that I did when I was 5 years old. And made it the logo.
That is awesome. That is just awesome.
Yeah.
I keep threatening to take out my old comics that I made, me and my friends made when we were in 5th to 6th grade, and then we charged people to read them because we didn't have access to a photocopy, and then collected them back, and the nuns made us give back the money.
Yeah, well, the self-publishing thing is just a return to normal for me because I created these characters in December of 1999, and I was drawing stories about them off and on the side of my day job and family life for like 17 years until our baby was born. And then I took a little break and then got picked up by a publisher for a few years. And then, but I was self-publishing those comics that whole time. And I was doing them as trade paperbacks and just selling them through my website. And then I got picked up by Alterna Comics, and I was with them for about 2 years. And well, almost 3 years actually, but 2021 to 2023, right up to the end of 2023, and put out these single issue format comics. But now I think I'm with issue 10. I'm going to get back to self-publishing and do it on my own again. So
that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
And do you know what platform you're going to use to do your campaign?
Yeah, fundmycomic.com. I'm going to use that. I was looking at what do you call it, Indiegogo?
Yeah.
And I just didn't find it that user friendly for me. Maybe I'm just dumb. I couldn't figure it out. But there were a lot of technical things on there that sort of
RJ,
loop, so
you haven't had problems with Indiegogo, have you?
No, they do take a lot of money compared to Fund My Comic, but I haven't had problems with the site itself, except for the fact that, of course, they started, not showing your stuff in the normal feed. Sometimes they'll promote it. Sometimes it won't be there at all.
Yeah, you said you were shadow banned a little, right?
Yeah, just for actually the first campaign was great. I was on the trending page for the first one, but the second two campaigns never showed up on any kind of list, even if you search for it. So yeah.
Yeah, I remember, because I was like, let me see, is this true? Because I'm thinking of doing, not thinking, I'm going to do my own comic now. So when you told me that, I was searching for it and I couldn't find it, and I had to use a direct link. And I remember sending people your direct link. I was like furious because this, this was what talking about is RJ's first comic, the Valiant Heroes. There's nothing. There's no objectionable politics. It's not porn. It's superhero violence. There's nothing objectionable about that comic. And the fact that it was shadow banned, I don't know. RJ, do you think it was political, or did you just hit some sort of algorithm? Which that drives me crazy too, that a computer could just censor my life's work,
Well, the stated reason, now I won't say whether, I don't know, because I don't know, but the stated reason is they're trying to get people off of the crutch of using their system to promote it. And you have to promote your own links, and you have to do all of the promotion to let people know about it. That's what their stated reason in the rule is. If they take you off of their pages, it's basically a kick in the pants that don't depend on us to do any kind of advertising for you by putting you on a page so people can see you. You got to do that.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. You got to promote your own stuff. But when I go to Indiegogo, I should be able to type in Crom the Destroyer or Wolf and Batsy and find you.
Yeah. No, it's like I had some guy go over the actual code for the page, and there is, a line of code which basically says, no, this will not show up if you search for it. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah. And so, Brian, do you anticipate that there'd be problems with Wolf and Batsy on Indiegogo or Kickstarter?
I have no idea. I'm totally new at doing this sort of crowdfunding thing. When I was self-publishing Wolf and Batsy before, from early 2000s to 2017, it was I was just putting copies on my website. I was getting them done print on demand and getting a stock of them, using my own money from my job, and then they would sell, and then that batch would pay for the next batch, and I'd buy another stack of them. So I've never done the crowdfunding thing before, except when I was with Alterna. They were doing these crowdfunding campaigns, but I wasn't running it. My book was just one book on the campaign. So I didn't really know the technical aspects of how it worked and everything. I was just sort of along for the ride with everybody else. And so when I had to set up one on my own and I looked into Indie, I naturally went there first because that's what I'd used. That's what had been used before. But I just found it technically kind of goofy. I don't know. like there were just weird technical things about it that just, and questions I had about it too. And the customer support was so distant or non-existent.
Yeah, non-existent would be the word.
Yeah. So I couldn't get an answer for some of these things. And then I don't know what made me think of trying out Fund My Comic or something. Somebody suggested it or whatever, but I looked into that and I said, well, let's just see what happens if I just try to set up a campaign on this. And it seemed like I just could go through it very smoothly. And any questions I had, I would email Luke, who runs it.
Right.
And he would get right back to me in 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So, I know that, and I've asked a couple different people who've tried different things about their experiences. And, people have said, well, Indiegogo has the larger audience because, they've been around longer, which makes sense. But for me, it's I just want something that's easy to use and I can get through it. And I can talk to the guy if I have any questions or technical. Oh, yeah. And to me, it just seemed like a no-brainer. And we'll see what happens.
You might even have a problem. Stop talking to Luke.
Well, that's fine. The more communication, the better.
Exactly. Yeah. I joke around. I got his phone number. I know where he lives. I could go talk to Luke if I got him. But he's a good guy.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. And I like that. I know his face. We had a comment. I don't know anybody who works at Indiegogo.
Right. So in a way, I'm sidestepping all those questions about the politics or shadow banning or anything like that, and just going with, I don't know. I'm not expecting to sell 1 million copies. You know, I'm just like, I just want to get my issue 10 out there to the people who read issue 9 and want to read this one, and continue the story. I want to keep you know, for the readers, you know. So you know, however it does, but we'll see what happens.
I don't know. We got a bunch of people in the chat. I'm going to ask this question to the chat. Does anybody not back a comic because of the platform that they're on? You know, just yesterday I backed a comic on Kickstarter. 2 days ago I backed a comic on Indiegogo, and the other day I backed Fund My Comic. What matters to me is, does this comic look interesting? Sometimes I'll back because I like the person, but I've never once said I'm not going to get a comic on Indiegogo because of it's the platform. So
yeah, that's silly to me. I don't understand those issues. Not that I've really looked into all the different whatever issues that the different sites have. I don't really care enough to bother with that. It's like, I'm just a consumer. If there's a cool looking book here at this store, I'm going to go there and buy it. If it's at another store, I'm going to go there and buy it. I don't understand why anybody cares.
I can see this person lost in plot. First off, thank you for commenting and watching. I've never seen the name before, so hello. I try to avoid Amazon. I can understand that too. Like, you know, I'm a big board game collector. I'd rather go to there's a local comic book and board game stores. I try to do that first. So that I totally understand. But you know, I can't go down to my local store and buy Wolf and Batsy yet. You know what I mean? Or
right.
Comic Destroyer yet. So yes, that to me is commendable. Support your local guys first. You know, so I'm with you on Lost the Plot. You know, maybe someday things will correct and we can get our comics in local comic book stores again. That would be awesome. That would be great. I would love to see my comic next to Green Lantern or Wonder Woman, or, you know, on a shelf next to Wolf and Batsy and Crom the Destroyer on the best-selling list. Wouldn't that be awesome?
You know, I've had that experience a couple of times when I was with previous publishers doing different projects, where I'd go to the comic book store and there's a book I illustrated on the shelf, and I'd get that little thrill that you dream about when you're 14 years old, like there's my book I drew and it's on the shelf at the comic book store, and that lasts about 10 seconds, and then I go, wait a minute, it's on the shelf, nobody bought it.
Yeah, you're not famous enough that people know your face yet. You walk up to the guy, is this any good? And listen to what the guy, that crap, I can't give it away.
Right.
That would be funny. Yeah. I have 3 books on that and not making, I'll crowdfund. Okay, yeah, I've heard this too, that Amazon screws people out of payments. You know, so I
thanks, by the way. Thank you. I appreciate that. Those supportive words. I appreciate that.
Oh yeah, you get a lot of people that yeah. That's how I met Brian. Is I got this comic out of nowhere. You know, it just showed up in my alternative bundle. That's how I am. You know, I was an alternative fanboy, so I clicked pledge, and then this strange Wolf and Batsy comic came out, and I loved it by the third page. I'm like, I'm making a video about this, you know, and then Brian came out and responded to my video.
Yeah, that's how I found out about you. I saw your review, and I had to send a thank you message. Super appreciate it.
yeah, and we've been talking ever since.
Yep.
Pellegrew says that they kicked your boy Zach. For those of you who don't know, that's Diversity in Comics. What's his name?
Richard Meyer.
You know, Richard C. Meyer and John Mal. Yeah, you know, not that I'm defending it, I could see that Richard C. Meyer went out of his way to be controversial. What did John Malin ever do to be controversial? Not that either one of them should matter, but I don't even know. Did John Malin say something? Do something?
Who's they? Who kicked
Indiegogo?
Oh, okay.
Kickstarter.
Oh, was it Kickstarter?
Yeah,
I thought it was Indiegogo. Oh, you're right. It probably was Kickstarter.
Well, yeah, it was Kickstarter because that started his whole thing.
Right.
Political commissar Camilla Zahn, and then she reached out to talk to him, you know, and he was like, "What do you want to talk about? You kicked me off your platform. Like, you know, what is there to talk about? You may, you know," which I kind of admire. Stick to your guns, you know. I'm working on my second Renfield graphic novel set in the 1930s gangsterland Chicago. No freaking superhero. Well, you know, I love monsters. I love superheroes.
Yeah, I love them both too.
Yep. If my comic's successful, I have a mythology story and I have a monster story. I got a lot of stories set up, but one thing at a time. Thing at a time. So Brian, when you were a little kid, were you a comic book superhero fan first, or were you a monster fan first?
That's a good question. I don't even remember exactly what came first. I remember being a little kid, and I remember like my dad showing me some amazing Spider-Mans. I remember visiting one of my older cousins that I didn't get to see very often. He had a big stack of Spider-Mans, and we're talking mid to late 70s when Romita was still drawing it. So those are like my earliest fuzzy childhood memories of being exposed to comic books. But after that, when I'd go to the 7-Eleven with my mom or whatever, a grocery store, and I'd look at the spinner rack, the things I was finding that were grabbing my attention were the monster comics. Weird War Tales, Tomb of Dracula, Werewolf by Night, anything like that, Ghosts, all those, tail end of the 70s, early 80s DC and Marvel horror monster comics. Swamp Thing was a major one for me.
Yeah, and you're talking about the original Len Wein, Bertie Wrightson Swamp Thing.
Yeah, well, and also Saga the Swamp Thing.
Yeah,
but Weird War Tales was a big deal to me as a kid. The Creature Commandos.
Yeah, how could you not love that? That to me, the Creature Commandos was like the vortex of so many different things. A war comic, a monster comic, and they were kind of superheroes, because superheroes can be monsters. It was that. I'm amazed that it took this long for them to option it for a movie. Come on, guys!
I can't believe they're making a movie about it all. It seemed like the most obscure thing in the world to me that only I knew about. I thought for years, but yeah, for the few years it was just whatever. I'd go to the store with my mom, and whatever comics looked cool, I would buy. No rhyme or reason, no continuity or anything like that. Just buying cool stuff, and then. At some point, I think when I was like in junior high, probably 1984, 85, one of my friends got me hooked on X-Men. And I remember Uncanny X-Men at that time was that one. And then the other one was
what
DC
period of X-Men? Was this the Chris Claremont, John Byrne X-Men?
Paul Smith era.
Oh, Paul Smith. Okay.
So it was right after John Byrne.
Yeah. You're a big fan of that era too, right?
Paul Smith is one of the best comic artists, if you ask me.
Yeah, absolutely. And to me, that's the X-Men. I mean, I know John Byrne's art kind of defined the X-Men for most people, and I love that too. Don't get me wrong, but it was that 2-part story. I think it was issue 172, 173, where Wolverine fights the Silver Samurai.
Oh, yeah.
That's the best fight scene in all of comic history. Again, that's my opinion.
Yeah, but that artwork...
I could definitely say that Brian didn't know that, but as soon as you said that, I was waiting for RJ to go nuts, because he's talked about those 2 comics over and over and over again.
Oh, yeah, those were some of the first X-Men comics I saw. And, yeah, that defined... And then Frank Miller's Wolverine miniseries came out right around the same time.
Yep.
And it was like... It was like, wow, this Wolverine guy. And the cool thing, too, was at that time, nobody knew that character existed except comic book readers.
Right.
Because he wasn't in any mainstream... The only licensed product you had was the Marvel Secret Wars action figure. But yeah, so X-Men around 84, 85, whenever that was. And the other one that hooked me, too, believe it or not, this is a silly one. But right around that same time at DC... The Fury of Firestorm started, that series. I don't know what it was. I dug that red and yellow costume, but
people make fun of it. But those puffy sleeves,
and the fire coming out of his head,
stupid things on his shoulder. Oh my God, that was awesome.
So I think we all had a book like that no one else read, but we loved. I think mine was Blue Devil.
Oh, Blue Devil was great.
Blue Devil was great. Yeah,
Blue Devil crossed over with Firestorm all the time. They were like friends.
It was Blue Devil, the Blue Beetle, and Firestorm. For some reason, those seem to be like triplets. Like they seem to be in like that little corner of DC.
Yeah.
You know, maybe I don't know. They came out at this around the same time, or they maybe it was the same writer. There's something about them that made those three linked in my mind.
Yeah. But that was my getting into comics journey, was like for years getting all these random monster comics and an occasional Spider-Man and Batman and Hulk mixed in. It was like, then one day it's like I got hooked on X-Men and Fury of Firestorm. And then I was addicted.
Yep. That RJ and Brian, have you Brian, you just said it, but have you ever just like you found a comic just that like #1 was coming out and it became like your comic that you championed?
Yeah.
To the point where you almost like, I don't want you buying that. This is my comic.
I think honestly for me, besides Blue Devil, because Blue Devil I bought from issue #1, but when they rebooted Flash as Wally West, that was a really big thing for me.
Yeah, Mike Barron. That was I remember thinking, but that was really the first time I started thinking, wow, they're like thinking of a superhero scientifically. Like he had to eat all the time. You know, they were talking about like he would accelerate slowly because he didn't want to do damage in crowded neighborhoods. You know, I thought that was so clever, you know. Yeah, I kind of like, I know it's goofy to say a realistic take on superheroes because then I'm not talking about The Boys. I don't like The Boys. That's
I don't either.
You know, but
me either. That makes 3.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. So RJ, I never asked you, were you into monsters as a kid? Or were you, because I know you played Dungeons and Dragons, and that means you got into monsters.
Well, we had a lot of monster stuff, but like the old, I watched old movies, but I had a friend and his father watched a lot of horror movies, so I got exposed to a lot of horror movies, like The Howling and stuff like that, right? The 70s
You're
horror
talking
movies.
the encyclopedia right over. I tried to stump Brian, and he shut me down, and I gave up playing that game. You know.
I grew up watching black and white monster movies on Saturday afternoons, and
yeah,
I still watch them. I still got them all on Blu-ray now, so I still watch them all the time.
You know. So I'm sorry, I cut you off, RJ. What were you saying? As a kid, were you? I know you said you watched all the movies.
Yeah, well, I watched a lot of movies. I watched a lot of movies when I was a kid. I was stuck in front of AMC all the time and watching everything I could, right? But no, I was really, really a superhero kid. So monsters were something off to the side. My brother was the D&D one, so I just tagged along.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I definitely love superheroes as a kid too, but yeah. From the Mego dolls to the the original Spider-Man cartoon, all that stuff. Super Friends.
I was just saying on my my Twitter, I put up a page or a picture of one of the Godzilla Marvel books where he's fighting Red Ronin. That to me, that's monster. Godzilla fighting a giant mech.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it Red Ronin was a Marvel made up Red Ronin? So Marvel.
No, I think it was a separate thing because I can remember having toys of the Shogun Warriors or Shonen Warriors. So they had their own toy line.
Yep. Yes. I had the Shogun Warriors. I had Dragoon, Mazinga, and Raideen.
Yes. And, I had those. God. I had Guy King, the one with the big yellow horns.
I didn't have that one. Raideen had like he had a rocket that shot out of his chest, and he had like a shield with the sword, and then one arm had like a battle axe on it that spring loaded. Mazinga had like his fingers were all missiles, and then my favorite part was the brain was a rocket ship that flew. Oh my god, did I love that! And then Dragoon had
Dragoon was the cool one.
You pushed the button and it shot like shuriken out of its arms. And
that's what I had.
Yeah, and my buddy had Sean, the same one who took us to lousy movies every year, except for Black Hole. He had the Godzilla.
I had the Godzilla.
I bet, yeah. And they never made a King Kong. Yeah,
no,
that would have been. There's realism, cynicism, and California real, and there's also California raisins. Yeah, my brother had these glow in the dark Universal Monster models.
Yes.
He kept them on his desk, and oh my god, I was terrified of my father getting throw them away. That's what a wuss I was as a kid. I read someplace that when it comes to like the old Bela Lugosi and the Universal monsters, that Dracula and Frankenstein, it was the creature of the Black Lagoon who was hands down the most popular. And I figure, Brian, you would know this more than anybody.
Well, everybody has their favorite.
But I heard that was the one that sold the most. Like,
well,
the 50s was the creature's time.
Yeah. Well, that is one thing I've noticed as a like action figure collector and toy collector and things like that. Whenever anything comes out with the creature, it's a hot sell, and it goes fast and it's sold out fast. So you better buy it when they first promote it, or you're going to miss it. Yeah, he's the hard one to get, as they say, But yeah, Dracula, Frankenstein, Wolfman are usually the three main ones. But there's something special about the creature.
Me being a Lovecraft freak, I don't know. Maybe you guys could correct, but I always argued that the Universal monsters were all Lovecraft monsters. Lovecraft had vampires. Lovecraft had a werewolf, and the creature was a deep one, and the blob was a Shoggoth. So here's where Brian's going to correct me.
Well, Lovecraft stories had those archetypes in them, right? But I don't think of the Lovecraft world and the Universal monsters.
Right. It's just me shoehorning my work into. But that's what I think. Is the creature copyrighted? Is that as many derivative? Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
it's got to be, and it's still got to be within the Universal's control, right?
Yeah. Universal owns that. They even own the likenesses to Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff's appearances. You have to get permission from Universal Studios and the family estates if you want to like put out any merchandise that has their likenesses on it.
Now that's a question. Could Bela Lugosi's likeness go into the public domain? I mean, it's a guy's face.
I don't know. I'm not a monster lawyer.
RJ and Brian, you guys have comic books out, and all of this debate about Mickey Mouse going into the public domain, and are you guys interested at all in public domain characters? Like, would you ever include them in your works?
Not things like Mickey Mouse. No, I don't want to spoil it. There's one public domain character that I have an idea for would be cool to cross over with Wolf and Batsy, and it would work. And it's been done before, but it's an idea that I had that I may or may not do.
RJ, would you ever be interested in? I know the superheroes, but like the Black Terror and the Green Llama and all those stuff. Do those interest you at all?
Not the ones that are in the public domain right now. I mean, when Batman and Superman come in the public domain in about 10 years, then maybe. But I would never use them as central characters. I always think if I was ever to use such characters, I would use them as backstory characters, just like Conan, right? Because Conan is public domain in Europe right now, but not public domain in the United States. So it's like my Crown the Destroyer book. I would like to use those stories someday as a tie to maybe the ancient history of my world, but that will be about it.
That's kind of how is something public domain in one area, so you can't sell the books overseas or something? I don't know.
No, they can't. The ones they have right now, they're publishing in Europe of the old Robert E. Howard stories. They can't resell them in the United States. They made a deal. They had to republish them if they could without the name Conan on them.
Oh wow, that is make up a new name for Conan. That's interesting to sell in the United States or whatever. I don't know. My way of thinking is I'd rather play with my own toys, than use.
Yeah, that's how I am too. I'd rather make up my own version. As much as I love a lot of those characters and would love to do something with them.
Yeah, my nightmare would be, I don't know. I take a Batman, and then make a story, and it's a hit, and now I'm sued because whatever they're changing the laws, they're changing the rules, or they just got deep pockets. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then I can't control my own story. So I'd rather just do my own stuff. So Brian, what is? Do you have a website or anything for your new company? I know it's Brian.
I have my regular website. Yeah, brianbaugh.net. Yes.
So people looking for your new comics could get information here.
There, yeah. Well, yeah. You can go there and you can get information and images of Wolf and Batsy, and then if you go to the store page, you can order all the issues directly from me, and I will sign them and ship them to you directly.
Oh, okay. So you have your alternate comics there.
Yeah, every issue's on there.
I'm a big fan of Wolf and Batsy. There's a reason why I keep talking to Brian. I really like the comics. I think Brian's a great guy. So I wouldn't steer you wrong. I'm a big fan.
Well, the comics are just fun. It's just me having fun, indulging in all my silly, childish monster nonsense.
I think those are the best comics these days.
Right. Yeah. Comics are supposed to be fun.
Yeah. So if you like silly, childish, monstrous nonsense, you might like it.
Yeah. I like what RJ's doing with Thomas Valiant, because it seems to be a fully realized world that I'm exploring as the issues come out, and it's not deconstructing superheroes and superheroes being nasty. It's an homage to like Chuck Dixon says, Blue Sky Comics, which I absolutely love. Mm-hmm. What is this comment? Disney didn't go after kids. I know that Disney went after Marvel with Howard the Duck. Oh, Marcus, I hit that. Do you think I'm stalking you? Yes,
absolutely.
If you look out that window right there, that's where I
catch him here all the time.
This is a green screen. I'm really behind right there.
That's why the blinds are closed.
I know. Could you open them? I'm trying to watch you in the shower, Brian. Come on, got to help the guy out. So let's see. I know. I got to go to bed. I got to wake up at 3:30 for the freaking week. We all take turns opening up the generator. Oh, what is this? I skipped a comment. I would love to make an animated movie based on Freddy the Pig by Walt. Freddy the Pig. I don't think I know that. If anybody hasn't heard of these books, but I'm afraid lost in the plot. I don't know Freddy the Pig. I know Freddy the Frog from that New Zoo review. That
I know Freddy Krueger.
Freddy Krueger.
So see,
Brian,
I'd love to make a comic about. I'd love to make a Nightmare on Elm Street comic.
Oh,
I've got so many ideas for that.
All
that's an example of a real thing that I will never get to use that I would love to do something with.
Yeah, there you go. Have like a nightmare demon fight Wolf and Batsy. Out of all of those monster slasher movies, Freddy Krueger was the only one that really scared me, because like watching these people in the movies, like I'm not going to sleep. And that they're gonna fall asleep. You're like, there's always the illusion that you could get in the car and drive away when Jason's shooting or something like that, or you know what I mean?
Well, there's so much subtlety to that first movie, more than most people remember. When you really pay attention to that story, there's so much going on there under the surface that I don't know. Maybe I've just watched it too many times.
No. That's the stuff. I do say it, they're my favorite, because Freddy was a wise guy in trouble.
Yeah.
Something about dreams and falling asleep and the inevitability of it all, I don't know if you guys are board gamers, but there's a game, Brian, it's made for you. It's called Final Girl, and it's a board game, and it's a solo game, which is weird to think that it's a board game for only one person to play, and you are the final girl. You're the last girl in a horror movie. And you have, the only way to win is to defeat the monster. So for copyright reasons, they don't say Jason, they say Otis. It's in it.
Right.
You go to camp, whatever, and Otis comes out, and they don't say Freddy Krueger. I forget what they call it, but there's every single horror trope. You could fight a werewolf, you could fight the devil, you could fight a ghost, you could fight the mutant family of hillbillies, that cannibal family, and it's so much fun. Like I don't know how many times I just sat and played, and it comes, I'm looking at it over there. It comes in a big box that looks like a VCR, you know, and then you open it up and it looks like cassette tapes and it's module. So you pick the setting and then you pick the monster. So you could have like Nightmare at Camp Crystal Lake.
Nice.
And it's so much fun. I'd recommend that. Got to come to New York. It's a solo game, but I actually invited friends over and sat and just like explained how to play, and then just watched them.
Watch them play.
Maybe I should spill myself playing this game once. It's so clever. And then each game comes with like little different cards. So it's because and when you fight the Freddy character, there's a dream deck, and what you got to do is there's like 6 cards, and you got to navigate through the 6 cards to wake up. But when you move a card like this, and if you see, I'm going to say Freddy because I can't remember. If you see his face, you take damage. So then you got to put the cards back and then reshuffle it. So you got to kind of remember, oh my God, so there's 1 out of 4 chance of seeing Freddy's face. And as you play it, my wife was watching you play it. She's like, "You're legit scared." I'm like, "Yeah, I only have 2 health left, and I don't want to start this game." Oh, and now she's like, "Oh my God, that's his face. What are you gonna do?" I'm like, "Oh, you have to have a cross to deflect them, or if you don't have a cross, it is fun." So there you go. I sell it other people's. It's called
cool.
Final. I did a video on it. I think I'll put the link in the description for anybody who's interested in that.
Yeah.
So, everybody, all 3 of us have got to leave. So I've been talking too much. So RJ, Brian, what do you guys want to say?
I'll go first. Just give you the last word, Brian. But if anybody wants to jump over to my channel, I have a stream starting in about 10 minutes.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Well, if you're interested in Wolf and Batsy, head over to my website, brianbaugh.net. Go to the store page. All 9 issues are on there. I will sign them for you. And if you really like them, issue 10 will be on a crowdfunding campaign in hopefully February.
February, okay.
March at the very latest, but hopefully February.
It could be 1 issue. You can have more than 1 issue, right?
2, possibly 3 issues.
There you go, guys. Look at that.
I'm thinking about making it issue 10, 11, and possibly 12.
Nice. Look at that. Yeah. So. Yeah, get those signed issues. So that's great, guys. You could get all of them. You got to collect them all if you're an obsessive person like myself. But thanks a lot, guys. I'm sorry to just leave now, but like I said, I got to wake up in 6 hours. Oh my God. So thanks a lot. And RJ's having a stream over at the 4th Age. You go to YouTube, the 4th Age. And what are you talking about? Making comics fun again, right? Is that your Wednesday
comics
show?
fun again? Yep, that's my normal stream for Wednesday.
And Brian, do you have any? You gonna be popping up anytime soon?
I might be doing a stream later tonight with Rini.
Oh wow!
I'm not sure. We were planning, and then she had some meetings, and I jumped on here with you. So I have to get back to her and find out. But possibly might be on her channel.
Fiendish, another phenomenal comic.
Yeah,
she's just fun to talk to. Yeah, if you ever get a chance, be on a stream with her. She's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I might be on her channel at 9:45, I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's 9. Well, I don't know what time it is that you're talking about, but over here in New York, it's 9:35. So thanks a lot, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in, and pick up Wolf and Batsy. Pick up Crom the Destroyer. The links are in the description. And again, I'm a big fan of these comics. I think there's some of the best stuff coming out. All right.
Yep.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.